Genesis 50, verses 22 to 26, and we're thinking about the meaning of Joseph's life as it's told on his deathbed scene. So it's like I'm reading a kind of funeral eulogy for Joseph. One way when you look at somebody's life is to look about the circumstances, the things that happen to them on the outside. But there's something else as well. What is the governing principle of his life, or your life, or mine? What are the things that make you you? What's the inner life? What does that look like? And the real person behind the circumstances. And if you think about Joseph's life, all that sad series of misfortunes, sold into slavery, thrown into prison, down and down and down. If you think about that, it's very interesting that the first thing you notice is there's no bitterness. He never seems to bear a grudge. He doesn't, does he? He is full of forgiveness, not just in the scenes in chapter 50 where he publicly forgives his brothers for what they've done for him, but it never comes out through those years he spent falsely accused and languishing in a prison. There's just no trace of bitterness. Treachery has come his way, nothing goes back. Betrayal has come his way, nothing comes out of him. My family has let me down. My friends have been false or ungrateful. He doesn't seem to reply. I'm wrongly accused. It's just not fair. Nothing. It's all true, all those things, and yet Joseph doesn't mention any of it. He seems to take it on his chin and stay calm. And even at the end, when his brothers are fearing that he's going to at last show revenge for them, he says, "Fear not, for am I in the place of God? But as for you, you thought evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it to pass in this day for salvation for many. So do not fear, I will nourish you and your little ones and your children." And this is what Christianity looks like. Because the word of forgiveness was whispered in Joseph, but it was proclaimed aloud in Jesus. The word was made flesh, and it was exhibited publicly in the cross of Christ. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. And the principle is clear that in all ages of time, love is the truth of life. That's right, isn't it? Love is the truth of life, and love can overcome evil. And people cannot injure us except by our permission, said Gandhi. Isn't that wonderful? No one is really dishonoured except by their own action. So the things that go wrong in our lives, the only harm they can do us is if we allow them to make us sullen and twisted or bitter or gloomy or grumpy. Don't do it. If we shut our hearts and allow the circumstances that have come against us to sour us, then that's a problem. But if we can forgive like Joseph did, then we can rob these things of their power to injure us. Because this is what Jesus taught. Love transforms evil. Love comes against it. In this world you will have trouble, Jesus said in John 16:33. You will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. And if I am in you, I can overcome the world in you and with you. And this is what Joseph did. He overcame the evil that had come against him by the power of forgiveness. And this is the only true victory. We win by love. Love can transform every curse that comes against you. Is that incredible? Isn't that powerful? So Joseph showed forgiveness. He also showed a real sense of identity. He never became an Egyptian. Even when he was embalmed after his death, I don't think he told them he wanted that to happen in the manner of the Egyptians. He wanted the Hebrews to take his bones with them when they left the country, when they went home. Even when he was living in an Egyptian palace, he told them that his father was a shepherd, which was an occupation that the Egyptians despised. They looked down on it, but he wasn't bothered because at his heart he knew who he was. He knew who he was and he knew where he came from. There's a lovely scene when they're having a feast and it says the Egyptians sat at one table and Joseph sat by himself. Isn't that interesting? He knew he was, and he stuck with it. And he showed a kind of humility in that. I am not going to pretend to be who I'm not. And humility is an inner thing. It doesn't depend upon how rich you are or how poor you are. You could be really, really poor and still exhibit an arrogant spirit. Can't you? You can still look down on people. Even if you're broke and you've got nothing to shout about, you can still look down on people. But Joseph never does. He never does. So he shows this forgiveness and a sense of who he really is. And who he really is somebody who is loved and cherished by God. And that gives him his strength. That gives him his strength. That gives us our strength. If you can allow the forgiveness of Christ to flow through you, if you can allow the identity of Christianity, the identity of Jesus to be your identity, then, no matter what trouble you're in, that identity will overwhelm the trouble around you. I believe it. Amen. God bless you.